What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? It's Daniel, and welcome back to our video. Today, we're going to be taking an early look at the 2023 NASCAR Cup Series driver lineup. We're going to go through all the full-time teams and the part-time teams that are confirmed at this point for 2023. Let's go ahead and just jump straight into it. We're going to start off by talking about the one car for Trackhouse Racing. Ross Chastain will be driving the one car in 2023. Ross Chastain is coming off a very strong year in 2022, where he's one of the most impressive drivers in the season. He scored 2 victories and made the championship 4, had some pretty iconic moments, including the Hail Melon at Martinsville. Ross Chastain will be looking to build on that and try to win his first championship in 2023. And while Phil Surgeon as crew chief in 2023, he'll be looking to build on that. Up next, driving a 2-car for Team Penske will be Austin Cinders. Austin Cinders is coming off a very solid rookie season where he had one of the most impressive rookie seasons up to this point, including winning the 2022 Daytona 500. Austin Cinders will be looking to build on that in 2023. The goal for him is to win multiple races. He'll have Jerry Bowles as crew chief in 2023. He'll be looking to have a really strong year in the number 2 car. Once again, looking to win multiple victories in 2023. Up next, we'll talk about the 3-car for Richard Childress Racing. Austin Dillon will be driving the 3-car in 2023. Austin Dillon's coming off a very decent year in 2023, not as good as Tyler Reddick. However, he actually did win a race 2022 at Daytona, and a race that was a little bit chaotic, but he ended up winning that race and made it to the playoffs, but unfortunately got eliminated in the round of 16. Now, Austin will be having some changes in 2023, as we'll have a new crew chief in 2023, and that is Keith Rodden, who was a crew chief for Hendrick Motorsports for a few seasons ago. Austin will be looking to build on that, a really solid year in 2022 by trying to win multiple races in 2023. Up next, we'll talk about the 4-car for Stewart-Haas Racing. Kevin Harvick will be driving the 4-car in 2023. Now, at this particular point, this could be Kevin Harvick's final full-time season in the NASCAR Cup Series. We'll probably know his decision by the time we get to Daytona in February, but this could potentially be Kevin Harvick's last season. Now, Kevin Harvick scored 2 victories in 2022, ending a very long winless streak that was nearly 2 years prior, and Kevin Harvick looks to build on that and try to bring Stewart-Haas Racing back to their glory days that they used to be. Harvick will be looking to have a good year in 2023. Up next, we'll talk about the 5-car for Hendrick Motorsports. This will be driven by Kyle Larson. Kyle Larson is coming off a very little bit of a disappointing year compared to 2021, but still he scored 3 victories in the season, but unfortunately got eliminated in the round of 12 due to some really unfortunate circumstances. The goal for Kyle Larson is to rebuild and try to win his 2nd championship in 2023. He had a pretty solid year in 2022, not as good as 2021, but I really feel like this 5 team will get his stuff together, and I think he'll have a strong year in 2023. Up next, we'll talk about the 6-car for RFK Racing. This car being driven by Brad Keselowski in 2023. Brad Keselowski had a very disappointing season. While many people did not expect Brad Keselowski to set the world on fire in 2022, he really struggled until the end of the season. He had some pretty good performances throughout the year, though. At Bristol, was up front in that race, had a tire go down, had a top 5 finish at Martinsville potentially, and did have a top 5 finish at Homestead. He also had a shot to win the 2022 Daytona 500. He's also looks to build on a end-of-year run and hopes he can do really strong to end the year and start 2023 off on a good note to try to make the playoffs and win in 2023. Up next, talk about the 7-car for Spire Motorsports. This car will be driven by Corey LaJoie. Corey LaJoie had a very disappointing year. His year in 2022 was worse than 2021. Now, I do think Spire Motorsports, them having 2 full-time cars in 2023, I think it will help their organization going into the season. So, I think Corey LaJoie will improve on a not great 2022 and will hope to improve in 2023 in the number 7. Up next, talk about the 8-car for Richard Childress Racing. Now, there are changes being made to this car as Kyle Busch moves on from Joe Gibbs Racing and will drive the number 8 for Richard Childress Racing in 2023. This will be a new, fresh face for Kyle Busch, as Kyle Busch has not been to a new organization for the last 15 years. He drove for Joe Gibbs Racing for 15 years and now moves on to greener pastures at Richard Childress. I think Kyle Busch will have a very strong year in 2023. He'll have Randall Burnett as his crew chief in this upcoming season and looks to have a very strong year, along with getting some new sponsors as well, including Cheddar's, Lenovo, 3Chai, a bunch of sponsors announced this past week. I think him having those sponsors will play a role in helping Kyle Busch be strong, and I think he will be a championship threat in 2023. Up next, how about the 9 car for Hendrick Motorsports? This course being driven by Chase Elliott. Chase Elliott in 2022 had a very, very solid season, scoring 5 victories and being most of the year the championship favorite. Unfortunately, in the playoffs, he kind of struggled near the end of the year. Now, he did make it to the championship 4, but unfortunately got spun out by Ross Chastain. The goal for Chase Elliott going into 2023, the goal is to run up front very consistently and have a really strong 2023 year and try to win his second NASCAR Cup Series championship, and I think he's got a really good shot at getting it done. Up next, talk about the 10 car for Stewart-Haas Racing. This course in 2023 being driven by Aric Almirola. Now, initially, Aric Almirola was actually going to retire at the end of the 2022 season, but his family and the sponsor, Smithfield, basically committed to him returning in 2023. Now, 2023 could still be Aric Almirola's final season in the NASCAR Cup Series, so he'll be needing to look to step up the plate and have some really strong runs in 2023. He'll once again have his crew chief once again he really had in 2022, which of course is Drew Blickensurfer, who did a really good job as a crew chief for Aric Almirola. Hopefully Aric Almirola can step up and potentially win in his final season in 2023. Up next, how about the 11 car for Joe Gibbs Racing? This, of course, being driven by Denny Hamlin. Now, Denny Hamlin has been reported this will be a contract year for Denny Hamlin as FedEx and Denny Hamlin's contracts end at the end of 2023. The big question will be will Denny Hamlin return in 2024 or will Joe Gibbs Racing get stuff signed for him to continue racing? That's one thing to watch throughout the season. Denny Hamlin's 2022 season was very disappointing, though near the end of the year he really started shining. Goal for Denny Hamlin is to win his 4th Daytona 500 and try to win his first NASCAR Cup Series championship as a driver. Up next, how about the 12th car for Team Penske? This will be course driven by Ryan Blaney. Ryan Blaney's coming off of a kind of a little bit disappointing year with him not winning a race technically, though he did win the All-Star race, but Ryan Blaney was extremely consistent. He was consistent to a point where he nearly made it to the championship 4 just on points without scoring a victory. Blaney, I think, will be able to improve in 2023. I think there were some mistakes that were made by the organization, but I do believe that we're going to see a very strong team from Ryan Blaney next year, and I think the 12 team will be really strong. Up next, how about the 14 car for Stewart-Haas Racing? This, of course, will be driven by Chase Briscoe. Chase Briscoe was definitely one of the drivers that came out of nowhere near the end of the season. He struggled for the most part in 2022, was able to make it to the round of 8, had some really strong runs, and also won his first career Cup Series race at Phoenix in 2022. In 2023, looking to build on that by winning a couple races and hoping to be very strong in that number 14 car to make the 14 car as good as it was when Tony Stewart drove it back in the day. Up next, how about the 15 car for Ware Racing? While nothing has been confirmed for Ware Racing, they tend to announce their plans at a later date. I expect that Ware will have a very similar lineup in the 15 car that they had in 2022. Drivers like Joey Hand, Joey Gase, and JJ Elliott, I think, will be driving this number 15 car with sponsorship and funding. And maybe a few other surprises, like maybe a Ryan Newman comes out of retirement perhaps to drive this car. We'll see what happens with the number 15 car, but they will probably have multiple drivers. Up next, how about the 16 car for Kaulig Racing? Allmendinger will be driving this car and will be his first full-time season in the NASCAR Cup Series since 2018 when he drove for JTG Doherty Racing. Allmendinger, near the end of the season, made a lot of NASCAR Cup Series starts in the number 16 car to get experience once again in the Cup Series and was very impressive. Made that Kaulig equipment look really, really strong near the season. I think AJ is going to be underrated this year. I think he'll be a very strong contender in 2023, and I expect that AJ will have a very good year in the number 16 car. I expect him to be a threat, and I think he will be an underdog for the championship in 2023. Up next, how about the 17 car for RFK Racing? This course being driven by Chris Buescher. Chris Buescher's 2022 is very interesting. While RFK Racing struggled a lot of the year on speed, Chris Buescher had a lot of standout performances on road courses in 2022, and also won at Bristol Motor Speedway on pure pace and speed. I think Chris Buescher, the driver, is extremely underrated. He had a shot a few years ago to go to Wood Brothers, but I really believe that Chris Buescher is going to be an underdog to make the playoffs this upcoming season. The goal for him is to win a couple races in that number 17 car. And if he can do that, I think that'd be really impressive. I don't see him doing it, but who knows at this particular point, but he'll be in the 17 car in 2023. Up next, how about the 19 car for Joe Gibbs Racing? This, of course, being driven by Martin Truex Jr. Now, Martin Truex Jr. is a year-by-year basis, so anything could happen at this point whenever it comes to Martin Truex Jr. if he decides to retire or continue racing, because initially we all thought he would retire at the end of 2022. Now, Mark Truex Jr.'s 2022 season was very disappointing. He failed to score a victory for the first time since 2014 when he joined Furniture Row Racing, and MTJ had a lot of races where he didn't finish in the top 5 and did have a lot of top 10s, but only had 4 or 5 top 5s throughout the season. The goal for Mark Truex Jr. is to improve on that and try to get a couple victories with James Small. I'm worried that he's going to start falling off in 2023 in the number 19 car. Up next, how about the 20 car for Joe Gibbs Racing? This, of course, being driven by Christopher Bell. Christopher Bell is coming off of a career year in 2022, scoring 3 victories, including 2 clutch victories at Martinsville for the round of to make it to championship 4, and also at the Charlotte where he's able to make it to the round of 8. Christopher Bell is a very underrated driver. I think he's really coming into his own, has 4 career victories up to this point. I think Christopher Bell could be someone that surprises and gets multiple victories in 2023 in that number 20 car. I think he will be a threat and one to watch throughout 2023. We'll see what he does, but he'll be a threat in 2023. Up next, how about the 21 car for the Wood Brothers? This will be, of course, driven by Harrison Burton in 2023 as he's in a multi-year deal with the team. Now, Harrison Burton in 2022 was a little disappointing. I don't think anybody expected the Wood Brothers to really set the world on fire, let's be for real. However, I think a lot of people thought that they were going to be a little bit better than they were, and it was a little disappointing to watch what Harrison Burton did on the racetrack. I think what Harrison Burton needs to do is to just improve. Now, I will say near the end of the season, he was showing a little bit of signs of improvement, but I think if you're in a position, he's got to improve a little bit more and do a lot better job as a driver heading into 2023. Hopefully, he'll be able to do that with this team next season. Up next, how about the 22 car for Team Penske? This car is being driven by defending NASCAR Cup Series champion, Joey Logano. Joey Logano 2023 will be looking to win his 2nd straight NASCAR Cup Series championship, becoming the first driver to win multiple championships in a row since Jimmie Johnson won 5 championships in a row. Joey Logano also got a bunch of victories. He got 4 victories in 2022. And I don't know Logano will perform as well as he did in 2022 like he does in 2023. But I think Logano will be one to watch. He's always a threat in a lot of races. I think he's one to watch throughout 2023. Up next, how about the 23 car for 2311 Racing? Now, this will be driven by Bubba Wallace. Near the end of the season, Bubba Wallace did drive the number 45 car, but that was because Kurt Busch unfortunately sat out due to concussion-like symptoms. Now, Bubba Wallace, I believe, will be someone to watch in 2023, as I think that 23 team of 45 camps were really starting to show a lot of pace and speed near the end of the season, to the point where Bubba Wallace actually ended up scoring a victory at Kansas in the number 45 car, where the 45 car swept with 2 different drivers. I think Bubba Wallace is one to watch throughout the year and could be an underdog for the championship in that number 23 car. I think he will be a threat. Up next, how about the 24 car for Hendrick Motorsports? This score is being driven by William Byron. William Byron is coming off a very bipolar season, to say the least. William Byron scored 2 victories throughout the season early in the year, but for the rest of the year, William Byron really struggled until we got to the playoffs, where in the summer stretch, he really did not score a ton of victories. Now, I do believe that William Byron has a really good chance to bounce back. I think near the end of the year, they were showing pace and speed that you're going to need to do if you're going to be really competitive, which I think he will be a very competitive driver in the 2023 season. I'm expecting great things from the 24 camp, and I think William Byron will be an underdog for the championship in 2023. Up next, how about the 26 car for Team Haysburg's Racing? While the 26 car has not been announced for Team Haysburg's, I expect this car will return to the track, and I think drivers like Danny Kvyat will be driving this car once again in 2023. This car made select starts in the Cup Series with Danny Kvyat, and I expect that this car will return with multiple different drivers behind the wheel with Toyota support and Ford support as well, as I think this will be a mixture of 2 manufacturers with Toyota and Ford. I think multiple drivers get an opportunity to drive this car in the 2023 season. Up next, how about the 27 car for Team Haysburg's Racing? Like I said with the 26 car, the 27 car has not been confirmed for 2023, but they are expected to return to the NASCAR track. Now, I think this car we're going to see a lot more in 2023 with Laurice Hazen's behind the wheel. I think we're going to see it all the road course races, and also I think we're going to see him all the super speedways and also all the short track races as well, to where they're going to run a near full season schedule. I think Team Haysburg is a team that has been ambitions to go full-time, and I think that they are going to end up going full-time in a not-so-distant future. I think they're going to be a strong team, not a strong team, but a team that improves next year as well. I'm expecting big things from this team's improvement side in 2023. Up next, how about the 30 car for 3F Racing? While 3F Racing has not announced their 2023 plans at this point, their ambitions are to run 7 to 10 NASCAR Cup Series races. And the rumor and rumbling behind the scenes is that Kaz Grala and Justin Allgaier are the favorites to drive this car in 2023. Now, Kaz Grala and Justin Allgaier both do have NASCAR Cup Series appearances and NASCAR Cup Series starts. Kaz Grala also announced he'd be driving for SAMA Racing on a full-time basis in the NASCAR Xfinity Series. I think both drivers would be really solid drivers to get behind the wheel of the 30 car. It's also rumored that they bought the assets of NY Racing, so that would definitely help their team when it comes to the parts, because they would have a next-gen chassis ready to go. They haven't announced their plans, but they will likely run in 2023. Up next, how about the 31 car for Kaulig Racing? This one has been confirmed. Justin Haley will drive the 31 car in 2023. Justin Haley's coming off a very underrated season, in my opinion. Had a very strong year in a Kaulig car. A lot of people didn't have high expectations of Justin Haley, but he did impress throughout the season. And I do think in 2023, he's going to have a chance of doing that once again in that car. He was very solid throughout the year. He nearly won at Daytona, had some top 5s and top 10s. And I think Kaulig's team that I expect to form, and I think that that is really going to help a driver out like Justin Haley to really improve throughout the season. Up next, how about the 33 car for Richard Childress Racing? While it's unclear if the 33 car will run in 2023, Richard Childress has indicated that there is still a potential plan for a third Richard Childress Racing car to show up on the Cup Series track throughout the season. If this car does show up, I expect 2 drivers to drive this car, and that is Austin Hill and Sheldon Creed. Both Austin Hill and Sheldon Creed have made select NASCAR, well, not Sheldon Creed, but Austin Hill actually made his NASCAR Cup Series debut in the number 33 car. Obviously, Jim Pullman will not be the crew chief, as he will be the crew chief for Justin Allgaier's team in 2023. But I think the 33 cars got a chance to show up, and if they do, they will have Austin Hill and Sheldon Creed drive this car, I believe, for multiple different races. Up next, how about the 34 car for Front Row Motorsports? Well, it hasn't been officially announced yet. It's indicated that Michael McDowell will be driving this car in 2023. Michael McDowell is coming off a very, very good season where he scored a lot of top 10s and a couple top 5s as well, and led the most laps he's ever led in the season. One thing that really could hurt Michael McDowell is he will not have Blake Harris as a crew chief. Travis Peterson, who was an engineer for RFK Racing, he did make some select starts as a crew chief. He will be the crew chief for the number 34 car. Now, when I look at Michael McDowell, I think that he will continue to improve as a driver this upcoming season, and he could be an underdog to make the playoffs in the number 34 car. While it's not announced, I think an announcement will be coming in the not-so-distant future from Michael McDowell and the 34 team. Up next, how about the 36 car for Front Row Motorsports? This will be driven more than likely by Zane Smith. That's the number I think Zane Smith is going to run, because Zane Smith will be running around 5 to 6 Cup Series races in 2023, including in the Daytona 500. Zane Smith won the 2022 NASCAR Camping World Truck Series title after scoring multiple victories and being a championship throughout the season in the 38 cars, arguably the best average finish of anybody in that field. I think Zane Smith is someone to watch for in the select races, especially with the front row equipment improving, and I think he'll get some really strong experience in that ride in 2023. Up next, how about the 38 car for Front Row Motorsports? Very similar to Michael McDowell, while it's not been announced around the 38 car, it's expected that Todd Gillen will drive the 38 car in 2023. Todd Gillen had a few really big standout performances. Before he had electrical problems at Watkins Glen, he was leading. Had a really strong run at the Indy Road Course on pace and speed. I think you're going to have to watch him on road courses throughout the 2023 season, because I think Front Row really at points has improved as an organization. The big question is, will they be able to continue that? That's a big question that we'll have to wait and see, but Todd Gillen looks improved in a sophomore year in 2023. Up next, how about the 41 car for Stewart-Haas Racing? Now, this car will be having some pretty big changes in 2023, as Ryan Preece will be taking over the seat from Cole Custer in 2023. This will be the first time Ryan Preece has drove full-time in the Cup Series since 2021. He did not race full-time, of course, in 2022. Made a couple select starts in the Ware Racing equipment. Ryan Preece, I think, a very underrated driver, rode for DJR Racing for a lot of last year, scored a victory in Nashville. In fact, he's won the last 2 straight races at Nashville. And I think Ryan Preece, who actually had basically his worst finish was 11th in all the races that he ran, I think Ryan Preece is definitely one that could be an underdog to make the playoffs next year. A crew chief has not been announced at this time. There's not going to, of course, be Mike Shipley next year, who's still indefinitely suspended by NASCAR after the manipulation at the Charlotte Roval. But I think Ryan Preece will be very strong next year and make the 41 car a lot faster of a team. Up next, how about the 42 car for Petty GMS? This one also be having some big changes in 2023, as Ty Dillon will not be returning to this ride in 2023. It will actually be Noah Gragson driving this car in 2023. Now, Noah Gragson is coming off of a very impressive NASCAR Xfinity Series season. Noah Gragson scored 8 wins in 2022, including winning 4 in a row near the start of the playoffs. Also, Noah Gragson made select NASCAR Cup Series appearances. He had a really impressive run going in Michigan before I think ended up crashing out. But he also has a lot of Cup Series experience as well. We'll have Luke Lambert as his crew chief. Of course, was crew chief in the NASCAR Xfinity Series in the 9 car. Noah Gragson will be having him as a crew chief. I expect that Noah Gragson will be someone to watch for, potentially be a driver who could do some great things, has a fantastic personality, and I think he'll be fun to watch in 2023. Up next, how about the 43 car for Petty GMS? This car will be driven by Erik Jones, who signed a multi-year contract extension with this organization. Erik Jones is coming off a very impressive season. One point where he actually ended up going out and winning the Southern 500. Yes, there were some electrical issues and engine issues that helped him win that, but he's still able to go out there and win. I think Erik Jones is one to watch for the playoffs next year. That 43 team is getting stronger and stronger as the year progresses. They were getting weaker. They were getting stronger. So I think that Erik Jones has so much potential to really impress in the 43 car next year, and I think Erik Jones is underrated to make the playoffs in 2023. Up next, how about the 44 car for Petty GMS Motorsports? While the number and race have not been announced for Jimmie Johnson, it's indicated that Jimmie Johnson will be driving the number 44 car and will likely run 5 Cup Series races in 2023. As Richard Petty indicated to Eric E7 in an interview, this likely will be 5 races that he'll run this season, including in the 2023 Daytona 500. Jimmie Johnson also will be an owner of the organization, a part-time owner of the team, as he took an ownership stake in the organization. I think Jimmie Johnson is definitely one that could surprise a lot of people. It's been a couple years since he has raced in NASCAR. The last time he raced was 2020. But I think that he will be someone that could surprise. I think he's got a shot of easily making the 500 and could be an underdog in races and might steal a top 10 or 2 throughout the season. Up next, how about the 45 car for 2311 Racing? This car will also be experiencing some pretty big changes in 2023, as Tyler Reddick, who of course drove the 8 car for Joe Gibbs and for Trackhouse Racing in 2022, will be driving the 45 car in 2023. Now, initially, Tyler Reddick was going to be driving the 45 car in 2024, but those plans effectively changed. Tyler Reddick has not brought any sponsorship funding from Trackhouse Racing, as all the RCR sponsors that were associated with Reddick will be associated with Kyle Busch next season. I think Tyler Reddick is someone that could be a very big underdog for the championship next year in this 45 car. He'll be working with the really solid crew chief in Billy Scott next year, and he'll also have Nick Payne as a spotter in 2023. Reddick's already been working with 2311 the last couple days, started his workload very recently, and I think that Tyler Reddick is going to be fun to watch in 2023 in the number 45 car. I think he's definitely one to watch throughout the season, and I think he will be a threat to win the championship next season. Up next, how about the 47 car for JTG Daugherty Racing? This will be driven by Ricky Stenhouse Jr. Ricky Stenhouse Jr. is coming off of kind of a disappointing year. He did have a stretch of 4 top 10 finishes in 2022, but Stenhouse, for the most part, had like 10 or 11 DNS and really was just a very big struggle. Now, Stenhouse, I do think, has a shot of improving with JTG Daugherty. But this could be one of the last years of Stenhouse. Well, actually, Stenhouse has a multi-year deal with the team. But Stenhouse is starting to get a little bit up there in age. I believe Stenhouse will be 35 years of age at the end of the 2023 season, or 36. So he's in his mid-30s. So how much longer is Stenhouse going to race? That is a big question. But Stenhouse really needs to start stepping it up if he's going to improve and show what he's got going forward. Up next, how about the 48 car for Hendrick Motorsports? This one's already been announced, as Alex Bowman will drive the 48 car. Now, the 48 number had been an interesting one because some people thought that would go to Petty GMS. That is not going to be happening. Alex Bowman came off of winning a race at Las Vegas early in the season. Unfortunately, the rest of the year was very forgettable, and unfortunately was sat out for 5 or 6 races due to concussion-like symptoms. Alex Bowman will have a new crew chief, though, next year, which really can help, and that, of course, is Blake Harris. Now, I think you're going to have to win a race, and I'm worried that Bowman may not be able to win a race, but I think that this 48 team could be very surprising in 2023, and I think definitely one to watch throughout the season. I think Bowman is definitely one to watch because he's also in a contract season. Up next, how about the 50 car for the Money Team? Now, very recently, the Money Team confirmed that they will be returning in 2023. Their goal is to run Connor Daly for most of the races next year. They will be running around 5 to 6 races in 2023. And they've also confirmed that they have had conversations with Julio Castroneves. Now, Castroneves is currently running for 2 entries, one of those, of course, being the Project 91 entry and also the Money Team entry. I think the ultimate goal for the Money Team eventually is to become a full-time organization and be up front a lot more consistently. I think this is a team to watch going into next year, and I think they will be a team that I think can improve. They had a lot of top 30 runs last year with Kaz Grala. Kaz Grala obviously will not be returning to this team, but he will have more rides and opportunities going down the road, and the Money Team will be running multiple races in 2023. Up next, how about the 51 car for Ricker Racing? While Ricker Racing has not announced their indications for 2023, I would expect that Cody Ware will be driving his 41 car once again this upcoming season. Cody Ware actually improved in 2022 up by 2 or 3 average finish positions and was up front a little bit more consistently and got a top 10 or 2 throughout the season. Now, when I look at Cody Ware, I think Rick Ware's a team that's not the fastest organization, so you have to kind of have your expectations a little bit lower for a team like Ricker Racing compared to a team like Joe Gibbs Racing or Stewart-Haas Racing, you name it. You got to have their expectations a little bit lower. But I think the goal for this team is to improve and hope that he can improve in 2023 as a full-time driver. Up next, how about the 54 car for Joe Gibbs Racing? So going into 2023, there are some big changes coming to Joe Gibbs Racing as Ty Gibbs will be basically taking over what was the 18 car. The 18 number is gone for 2023, and Ty Gibbs will be driving the 54 car. Now, Ty Gibbs made Select Cup Series starts in 2022, scored 1 top 10, but for the rest of it was very unimpressive. Now, Ty Gibbs, to be fair, did win the NASCAR Xfinity Series Championship, but he did make a lot of enemies in the NASCAR Xfinity Series. He's going to have a lot of pressure going next year as a rookie. We're looking to try to make the playoffs. I personally don't think he'll make the playoffs in 2023. But he could be a little bit of a surprise throughout the season, and we'll have to wait and see what he can do in his 54 car. He'll also have Chris Gale, who as a crew chief was crew chief in Xfinity. He'll have Chris Gale as a crew chief in 2023 in the number 54 car. The hope is that Chris Gale can really help Ty Gibbs mature as a driver this upcoming season. Up next, how about the 62 car for Beard Motorsports? Beard Motorsports, about a month or 2 ago, announced their official plans for 2023, and they are going to be running 6 races in 2023 with Austin Hill. They'll be attempting to make the Daytona 500, the race at the basically be racing Chicago Street Course, Michigan, and all the other super speedway races as well. Austin Hill is a very, very good choice. I think Hill is a very talented driver, a driver that's been really strong in Xfinity. He'll be returning likely to Briscoe Racing next season, and I think Hill will really have a good chance helping out the team. Plus, he's really good at super speedways too, which could not hurt the team. So I think it will do good things for the team, and I think he'll be very strong in that car next season when that car runs. Up next, how about the 6.6 car for MBM Motorsports? Well, MBM Motorsports has not indicated their plans for 2023 at this time, and at this point, we don't know if they're going to show up. I expect that they will potentially have 2 cars, but right now, I'm going to say they're only going to have 1 car at the moment. And I think that Timmy Hill will drive his car for a majority of races. Now, potentially, Boris Sack can make select starts as his name has put on a door at the PRI show. However, that was just a show car. I think it will be very interesting to see what happens to MBM, if they even show up, but I think they will show up in 2023, like they did in 2022. Up next, how about the 77 car for Spire Motorsports? There are some changes coming to this car, as this car will have only 1 driver instead of 2 entries. And this car will be driven by Ty Dillon. Now, Ty Dillon in 2022 was very disappointing. He struggled in the 42 car. He finished, I think, 28th or 29th in points as one of the lowest performing drivers throughout the season. I'm not sure how Ty Dillon is going to perform in this car. I think this is a good opportunity for him for sure. He's got to really prove himself in this car. Not like say he's got to go out like win a championship or nothing, because that would be ridiculous. But I think that Ty Dillon is going to be expected to run as well as he can and run up front as consistently as possible. And I think that'd be a really good goal for Ty Dillon. The goal is to try to finish top 30 in the points in 2023. Up next, how about the 78 car for Live Fast Motorsports? Now, Live Fast Motorsports will be having some pretty big changes going into next year, as they will actually be switching manufacturers. They'll be switching from a Ford-branded team to a Chevy-branded team in 2023. Now, it's been indicated that multiple drivers, according to Kelly Crandall, that there will be multiple drivers driving this car. BJ McCall will drive a lot of races, but I also expect Garrett Smithley, who will be driving full-time for BJ McCall Motorsports in Xfinity in the number 78 entry, will get select starts in the 78 car next season. Really cool to see what BJ McCall Motorsports, will Live Fast Motorsports is doing. They're trying to improve their program and improve the progress of that team heading into 2023. Up next, how about the 91 car for Trackhouse Racing? This, of course, being the Project 91 car. Now, there have not been any announcements in regards to the Project 91 car at this point, but it sounds like they're going to run a ton of races this upcoming season, and they will potentially have a couple drivers. Julio Castroneves could go to the 50 team, but there's also a possibility he could drive the 91 for Trackhouse Racing in the Daytona 500. Shane Van Gisbergen has brought up that he's had conversations with Trackhouse, and there's other drivers like potentially Kimi Räikkönen. Now, a lot of people thought about Daniel Ricciardo. Daniel Ricciardo basically announced recently they will not be running in NASCAR in 2023, according to sources. So that's what's going on with the Trackhouse car heading into 2023. Up next, how about the 97 car for 2311 Racing? This is a special car for Kurt Busch. Now, Kurt Busch never said that he'd be retiring basically altogether. He announced he'd be retiring from full-time racing. Kurt Busch, I think, still wants to race in 2023 and make select starts. I think it will bring back the old school 97, as that number is currently available at the moment. Plus, I think Kurt Busch still wants to race and compete. He could be joining the Fox Sports Group on a part-time basis next year as well, but I think that this car will be reserved for Kurt Busch when he does want to race. Maybe this eventually becomes a full-time entry, a third entry long-term, but I'm expecting Kurt Busch to drive select races if he's medically cleared. And finally, on the drivers, we're going to talk about the 99 for Trackhouse Racing. This, of course, being driven by Daniel Suarez. Daniel Suarez is coming off a very strong year in 2022, scoring one victory and making it to the round of 12 and nearly making it actually to the round of 8. And if not for a power steering error, he would have actually made it to the round of 8. Daniel Suarez had a great year, signed a one-year contract extension with the team. He'll be looking to improve by making it to the round of 8 in that number 99 car. Looks to improve, looks to progress, and have a strong season in the 99 car. I think he's got a really good chance to get it done. I think he will be very, very fast throughout the 2023 season. So, that is what we got so far in regards to the 2023 NASCAR Cup Series lineup. When more gets officially announced near the start of the season, we'll do an updated version of this when we get close to the start of the season. So, that is for today's special NASCAR video. I want to thank you guys for watching. Please like and subscribe to the channel, notifications on to be notified when a video does go live on my channel. Follow me on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, and support me on Patreon as well. Links are below for that, and comment your thoughts on today's video. How excited are you for 2023 as we get close to the start of the season? Let me know in the comments below. Tomorrow on my channel, we're going to have a NASCAR news catch-up video. We've got a couple stories, major stories to talk about, some other big stories, some other motorsports to discuss. Tuesday will likely be a team preview on the channel, or could potentially be the Xfinity Series predictions, but we'll have to wait and see. So anyway, like I said, I want to thank you guys for watching today's episode. I'll see you guys next time for some more great, awesome NASCAR content and other motorsports content on the channel like this. Take care, everybody.